Welcome back to another math video brought to you by Mrs. Engelbrecht. Remember to like and subscribe my channel on YouTube. Woohoo! Okay. Let's kind of get serious though, guys, on this one because rounding is a toughie. Okay, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Rounding is always the most difficult concept that we teach at the start of the year in 4th grade. So I want you to put your thinking caps on. I want you to get those pencil and that paper ready to take notes because this is going to be one of the most important lessons that you will have this year in math in 4th grade. Wow, that's a lot of pressure. Okay, but we can do it because we are so smart and we're ready for this. Okay, you guys are so ready for this. So we're going to be using place value to round. This is why knowing place value is very important because when we say you need to round to the 10,000 spot, if you don't know where the 10,000 spot is, how do you know where to round to? So make sure that you're watching that place value rap song, that you're following along with all the place values, that you're able to determine which digit is in which place value, because that is going to be super important for today's lesson. All right. Before we begin, we're going to start out a little bit different. We're going to watch a quick little video, and it's going to be actually kind of like a children's book, but it'll kind of give you an idea as to why rounding is so important. So I hope you enjoy. Sit back, relax, and listen to the story.
Coyotes All Around by Stuart J. Murphy, illustrated by Steve Bjorkman. One afternoon, a pack of coyotes gathered on the porch of their desert ranch. "Look at all those roadrunners," said Clumsy Coyote. Said Clever Coyote. "Isn't it just about lunchtime?" "There must be hundreds of them," said Cool Coyote. "Hundreds," said Clever Coyote. "That's ridiculous. There can't be that many. Why don't you guys count and see how many there really are?" Clumsy Coyote said, "I'll take this side." Careful Coyote took the smallest coyote, Little One, and said, "Let's try over here." "I've got the best side," bragged Cool Coyote. Everyone started counting. Everyone except Clever Coyote. Clever Coyote was starting to get hungry. While everybody was busy counting, she slunk, she crept, she jumped, she missed. "Oof," said Clever Coyote. "That ground was hard. So how many birds were there?" "I need a piece of paper to add everything up," said Careful. "Ha," said Clever Coyote. "I bet I can do it in my head and come really close." "No way," said Little One. "Well, 21 is very close to 20. 12 is close to 10. 17 is closer to 20 than to 10. And 8 is almost 10. Adding tens is easy." "Around 60 roadrunners," said Clever Coyote. Careful took out a pencil and paper and added up the numbers. "It's exactly 58, he said. She was just a little over. "They don't call me clever for nothing," said Clever Coyote. "I bet there are lots of lizards out there," said Clumsy. "Where there are roadrunners, there are lizards." "Hey, you're right," said Cool Coyote. "It looks like there are thousands of them." "There can't be that many," said Clever Coyote. "Why don't you count them and see?" Clever Coyote was very hungry. While everybody was busy counting, she prowled, she stalked, she pounced, she missed. "Ouch," said Clever Coyote. "That rock was really pointy. So how many lizards were there?" "I'll get my paper," said Careful. "Don't bother," said Clever Coyote. "I'll do it in my head again. 11 is just 1 over 10. 13 is closer to 10 than to 20. 27 is closer to 30 than to 20. 2 is a lot closer to 0 than to 10. Now I'll add up all my tens." "Around 50 lizards," Clever Coyote said. Careful wrote the numbers down and added them up. "It's exactly 53, he said. She was just a little under." "That's why they call me clever," said Clever Coyote. "There must be a lot of grasshoppers," said Clumsy. "Where there are lizards, there are always grasshoppers." "Look, you're right," said Cool Coyote. "There could be 1,000,000 of them." "Oh, stop exaggerating," said Clever Coyote. "Go ahead and count them up." Clever Coyote was starving. While everyone was busy counting, she lurked. She hid. She leaped. She missed. Yow, said Clever Coyote, that was a really prickly cactus. So how many grasshoppers were there? Where's my paper? Asked Careful. Oh, never mind, said Clever Coyote. I bet I can come really close again. But if I do, you guys have to gather some beetles for lunch. They're my favorite. You're on, said Clumsy. You'll never do it 3 times in a row. 24 is closer to 20 than to 30. 18 is almost 20. 25 is halfway between 20 and 30. I'll go up to 30. 12 is closer to 10 than to 20. Now I'll add up all my tens. Around 80 grasshoppers, Clever Coyote said. Careful wrote the numbers down and added them up. By gosh, she did it, he shouted. The exact answer is 79, he said. She was really close this time. Clever Coyote does it again, said Clever. Now hurry up with those beetles. She smacked her lips. Clumsy jumped. Careful pounced. Cool leaped, and Little One followed. They landed right on top of Clever Coyote. I guess it's about time I gave up on lunch, groaned Not So Clever Coyote from the bottom of the pile.
All right, so that's the end of our reading in math. Wild, right? But I hope that gives you guys a sense of why rounding is super important. Clever Coyote kept saying, I can just do it in my head. And that's exactly why we round. Our minds think in terms of zeros, okay? We like as many zeros as possible in our numbers because that means there's less for us to calculate. And so by rounding, we're going to make math calculations easier, estimations more accurate, and just be able to have a better time with what we're doing because we're able to get really close to the answer, to check our answer to make sure that we're on the right track. So rounding is useful in so many ways. If you're looking for a lesson that you're going to use in life, this is it. And so let's go ahead and switch over to our notes and get started with that so that we can get on a roll with how this whole rounding thing works. All right, we're going to go ahead and take notes over lesson 5, using place value to round. Before though we start taking these notes, what I want you to do really quick is to pause this video and head over back to Classroom, find the link for the YouTube video for the rounding song, okay? And I want you to listen to that first because that'll help this make so much more sense and won't be near as confusing. And I have a feeling you're going to really enjoy this song. So go ahead, click pause, and head on over there. Okay, so hopefully you're back now, and we're going to go ahead and take some notes. I do have some rounding tips for you that kind of go along with the song that you just listened to. We Will Round You. I hope you were stomping and clapping along to that song. It's super fun. Always one of 4th grade's favorites to do for math. So in the song, we hear 5 or more raise the score. So the way I like to represent that is to draw a 5. And then to show that it raises a score, I take the 5 and I extend it all the way up and give it a little arrow to show 5 or more, we raise the score. Okay, we raise it up. To remember 4 or less, let it rest, I can draw a 4 with kind of like an extra long kind of sidebar here and show that it is 4 or less, lets it rest. Okay, so just a couple symbols to help you remember the phrases in this song. Next up, we're going to start with a really easy example. It's always good to start with an easy example so that we can see how do we apply the song to help us round. So our example is going to be the number 378, and we're going to round to the nearest hundred. 100. Okay, so let's think about our song. Find the place, look next door. All right, so I need to find the place that our problem is referring to. They want us to round to the nearest 100. So I need to find that place in my number, and I need to circle it. So the 3 is in the hundreds place, so I circled it. Okay, now the song says, find the place, look next door. Well, to show that I'm looking next door, I'm going to draw an arrow over to it. Okay, so I found the place, I'm looking next door, and then I'm asking myself about where I'm looking. I'm saying, is this 5 or more, or is it 4 or less? If it's 5 or more, we're going to raise that score. If it's 4 or less, we're going to let it rest. Okay, so the 7 is 5 or more. It falls into this category. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 3 and I'm going to raise it to a 4. The only number that will change, either let it rest or raise the score, is going to be the number that we circled, or the digit that we circled, should I say. So the 3 gets raised to a 4, and then the rest of the song says, look to the right, put zeros in sight. So I'm going to fill those out with zeros. Okay, I had 2 more places here that now are zeros, so my final answer for this is 400. Now, I could have looked at 378 and said, okay, 378, it falls between 300 and 400. And it's past 350. It's kind of way past 350. So it's got to be closer to 400. And I could have written down 400, circled my answer, and been done with it. However, we're going to be having much more difficult problems than this that we need to round. And so by walking you through with the song and showing you how to apply the song to round a number, I hope that that will help you. So, well, you are asking for a challenge, it sounds like. So let's go ahead and give you a little bit more of a challenge. Go ahead and write this problem down in your notes. 24,372. And we're going to round this one to the nearest, what do you think I'm going to do? Let's do 1,000. To the nearest 1,000. All right, 1,000 is the place that I'm looking for. So find that place. Which digit is in the thousands place? If you said 4, you are absolutely correct. And now I'm going to think about my song. Okay? Stomp, stomp, clap. Stomp, stomp, clap. Find the place. Look next door. Draw your arrow. Beautiful. All right, I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the 3 and I'm asking myself, is it 5 or more, or is it 4 or less? Well, it's definitely 4 or less, so I'm going to let this 4 rest. Okay? It stays a 4. Phew, it passed the screening. So now I look to the right, put zeros in sight. Beautiful. All right, I'm done. Woohoo, we did it. Great job. All done. No, Mrs. Engelbrecht, that's not right at all. What are you thinking? There is no way that 24,372 rounds to 4,000. There's no way. There's no way that we can say that this is really close to this. It's over 20,000 for heaven's sakes, which means we can't forget the 2, guys. You gotta bring it down. You can't leave them hanging, okay? So any number that's before the place value that we're rounding to, you have to bring it back down. They're still included, okay? They're just not really part of the song, but they're part of the answer, so that's important, right? All right, I'm going to circle my final answer. All right, it's 24,000, and that makes sense because 372, well, that's not even 500 yet, right? And so it's closer to 4,000 than it would be to 5,000 since we're rounding to the thousands place. All right, great job. This concludes our notes. What I'm going to do now is kind of switch over to the book, and you can switch over to the book if you'd like, or you can continue to write on the bottom half of your page, whatever you prefer. But I'm going to be looking and taking examples from the book, so you can also
use your book for examples and extra practice. It's a great study tool. Whenever we're going to be coming up to a test next Friday, I believe. So you can always do more, but you can never do less. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to look at problem 3, and that can be found on page 38 and 39. Okay, I'm going to be looking at the guided practice and the independent practice on pages 38 and 39 in your book. Number 3 is in the guided practice, and it is 581,203, and they want us to round this to the 100,000s place. Okay, so we're looking at the 100,000s, and so I need to think about my song. All right, so find the place. Which digit is in the 100,000s place? Circle it. Woohoo, we did it. Okay, find the place, look next door, draw your arrow. I look next door. I'm going to ask myself, 5 or more, we raise the score. 4 or less, we let it rest. If you say 8 is 4 or less, I don't even know what to say. It is definitely 5 or more. Okay, who's with me? It's 5 or more. So that means the 5 that's circled becomes a 6. So bring it on down as a 6. Okay, 5 or more, we raise the score. 4 or less, we let it rest. Look to the right, this direction. Put zeros in sight. You got to fill in all those spots. Anything past the digit that we circle to the right is a 0. That's the beauty of rounding, guys, okay? Don't you forget it. So I like to circle my answers. It makes me feel like I've completed something and like I did a good job. So if you're like, why is she circling her answers? That's why. All right, what we're going to do next is number 7 from independent practice. Okay, so let's look at that one. It is 37,890. And we're going to round that to the hundreds place, or so it tells us to. We're going to round it to the hundreds place. Okay, so what digit is in the hundreds place? Circle it. The 8 is in the hundreds place. Very good. So we found the place. We're looking next door. Is it 5 or more? Is it 4 or less? 9 is about the highest we can go, so it's definitely 5 or more. So the 8 is raised to a 9. All right, look to the right, put zeros in sight. Done. No, Mrs. Engelbrecht, you forgot your little stragglers. Oh, duh, you guys are right. I should listen to you more often. Okay, so I cannot forget those guys. There's no way. Guys, hear me out. There's no way that 37,000 something can round to 900. It doesn't make sense. That's like saying, oh yeah, I totally went and bought this car and it was like about 900. And then the salesman is like, you mean like 37,900? Yeah, totally. Guys, it's not close. Okay, you gotta bring these guys down. Otherwise, it don't make any sense. Don't make no sense. Okay. We got another one done. Woohoo! Okay, one more example together in our video, and then you can do as many examples as you'd like. But for now, we're going to do number 4 from the independent practice, and it is 500,580, and we're going to round this to the thousands place. All right, which digit is in the thousands place? Oh, it's right here. I found it. Okay, find the place, look next door. Don't you dare stop me right now and say, Mrs. Engelbrecht, but there's a 0 in the thousands place. I know that. It doesn't matter that it's a 0. We're going to keep going with the song and see if it works, okay? Stay with me. It's going to work. Trust me. All right, so Find the place, look next door, 5 or more. Well, it is a 5. It's 5 or more. It's 5. So the 0 raises the score. What is it raised to? What's 1 more than 0, guys? No, it's not 3. Who said 3? Shame on you. It is 1. Okay, so 0 turns into a 1. Look to the right, put zeros in sight. Okay, I filled in all those places. Am I done? You better say no, and that we need to go back and bring down our stragglers. Okay, and this makes sense, guys, because 580, that's past the halfway mark of 500 to 1,000. So we rounded this from not having 1,000 to now being 1,000 because we passed the 500 mark. So we were closer to 1,000 than we were to 0. Okay, so that's the answer to that. What I'm going to do next is kind of walk you through your worksheet that you have to go along with this lesson and show you how that needs to be completed. Okay, so here is your worksheet for rounding this on Thursday. There will be another worksheet for rounding tomorrow. We're going to do it for 2 days. That's that important. So don't get the two confused, but this is for the one for today. And I want you to know that this very first slide is just an example. Okay, that's why it says example in bold at the top. Okay, so all you need to do is kind of look through and see how I did this. So I circled the place it wants me to round to the nearest 1,000. I circled the place that's in the 1,000. Then I look next door. And when I look next door, I realize that the 2 is 4 or less, so the 6 will stay a 6. So I brought down the 4 and the 6, and the rest of this, when I move my picture, if I can move my picture, I'll just get rid of it. Okay. The rest of it becomes 0. So look to the right. So I put the arrow after the 6, saying that I'm looking to the right of the 6. The rest of those become zeros. So what you have to do is I gave you all the same shapes, all the same symbols, just a different problem, and I want you to set this up the same way that I did on the previous slide. Okay? Then you're going to fill this in. The blank is, so look at where your arrow is pointing in step 2. Is it 5 or more or 4 or less? So whatever your arrow is pointing to, you'd say that digit. So let's say it's the 9. The 9 is 5 or more. Okay? Now we may not be talking about the 9, so don't use that unless it's correct. But make sure that you are using whatever digit that your arrow is pointing to here. Okay? And then you'll type your answer here by double-clicking on it and typing it in. So anything that's yellow you need to fill out, and you need to move the red symbols to the correct spot. The very final slide is just kind of a rounding review. This is very simple problems, only a smidge bit more difficult than what our coyote was doing in our story today. So go ahead and try this out, do your best, and let us know if you have any questions.